Okay, so welcome to another session for NAV functional trainings. I'm your trainer, Ahmed Hassan, and today we'll be covering some points. Okay, so we are now delving into the core functionality of Dynamics NAV, which is going to be creation of your masters, okay, the customers, the vendors, the items, and definitely we'll start with the purchase cycle and close that purchase cycle with the payment. So just going to move over towards Dynamics now. Okay, right. So as you know, this is your standard role center, and whatever information, whatever detail you need is going to be in your department's area, and whatever quick actions or quick areas you need to access, you will have them in your navigation pane. So we're going to go to the departments. We're going to uh, the purchasing module, and we're going to order processing and vendors. So, see where is it going? Okay, so as all of you know that vendors are the people you do your business with in terms of purchasing. They are the people who are responsible for providing you goods. They're the people who are responsible for providing you services, and they're also the people responsible for anything that you subcontract. So, for example, you are purchasing your raw materials, or for example, you are purchasing a service. Okay, for example, the office cleaning, or you're purchasing service for any given service. Okay, you can create them as a vendor. Also, if for example you are outsourcing some work, okay, that will also be considered as a service, but they will be as your subcontractors. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to click new. Okay, so this is this one, please. Okay, so this is Avaz, please put your mic on mute. Okay, so this is these are called the templates. Okay, the templates, for example, once you click new, this page opens up. Okay, and you can have your standard template. So if you select any template, it will fill in the fields. But we are going to discuss this later on, so I'm just going to cancel this, and it will open for me the vendor card. Okay, so if you can see here, we don't have this. Okay, so we have the number field here. Okay, so it was hidden, it is not promoted. Okay, so if you want it promoted, we can just go to the customize page, customize this page, tabs, general, customize it. Okay, you have your number field, and you can change it to promoted. Okay, so it's going to be shown in your fields. You don't have to click show more. Okay, so see, you're able to see it now. Right, so the vendor number is automatic. Okay, and we'll just discuss this in a while, how it's coming automatically. But for now, the system is taking the number incremental. Okay, so going to give it a name. So we'll say that this is we'll name it as X, Y, Z. Okay, so this is quite obvious, the block. You can have it as a blank. Blank means that all the activities can be done with this, the payments and whatever. If you're blocking the payment, you cannot pay anything to this vendor. Okay? And if you're blocking all, then you will not be able to create any purchase orders, purchase quotations, purchase invoices, or any transaction with this vendor. Okay, Then you have your balance LCY. LCY stands for local currency. So anything within LCY will show here. The LCY means that anything that has LCY it is the base currency of the system. Okay. Then you have your balance due. Okay, this is according to your payment terms. Okay, whatever you have decided with the customer. For example, there are some invoices that are pending from his side, but they are not still due. For example, he owes you money after 1 month, so it will not show here. Once it elapses, that time elapses, you will show it will show you here. Okay, that he owes you this much money now. Right. So again, this is pretty much standard. You can guess that what information you're going to capture in this fast tab, the address and contact. Just going to give the address, the postal code, the city, and the contact. Okay. So you can have a primary contact. You can create contacts in your system. You would say that, for example, you would create a contact uh, by the name. Okay, we'll say that he is ABC contact, and that's all. Something wrong here. Right, so okay. Okay, so you can see that this is a company or a person. You'll say this is a person, okay, and the company number is, I would say, I think it was XY. I'll say XYZ. This is the XYZ vendor, and that's about it. Okay, you can see that this contact is now linked with this vendor. Okay, so you can maintain contacts, okay, with the vendor. You can have multiple contacts with the vendor, and this is about your address tab. Then you have your invoicing tab. In the invoicing tab, you can see that you have your VAT registration number. VAT registration number is what is assigned by a government authority to a customer or any organization. Okay, if they are registered with the VAT, they will receive a VAT registration number. This is where you can maintain that. Then you have your, this is pretty much the same, the pay to vendor number. For example, if in some scenarios you have a vendor, for example, you have a vendor who has one company who is going to provide you the goods, and there is a second company who is going to receive the invoices. So in that scenario, you can create both, and if it is going to be a separate vendor for the payments, then you're going to attach that vendor there. Okay, so rest of these fields are, for example, these three are the most important. You have your general business posting group, you have your VAT business posting group, and you have your vendor posting group. So we have already discussed these things. Okay, I want you to recall that these three fields are based on these three fields. We're going to have the system perform different transactions for us and post different transactions for us. So if this setup is missing, you cannot use this vendor. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on and give him a domestic, okay, and then you have your, you'll say that's a domestic vendor, okay. Now, if, for example, the this vendor is a foreign vendor, okay, then you will assign a currency to him. For example, he belongs to USA, so you will assign US dollars to him. But if this field does not have a value, it means that the system will consider this as the system currency. It will not take this blank. Okay, it will consider this as system. For example, your system currency is Indian rupee, so it will consider it as an Indian rupee. You don't have to attach anything here. Or if there's a Saudi riyal, it will consider this as a Saudi riyal. Okay. Then the application method is actually this will be clarified in at a later stage, but I'm just going to give you a brief summary of this. The application method means that, just open for you. Okay, So you have manual and apply to oldest. So for example, you have 10 invoices of this vendor in the system, okay, and you have done a payment. For example, each invoice carries a value of thousand rupees. Okay, so thousand into 10 means 100,000. Okay, and this you have to pay to this vendor. Okay, 1,000 to 10, sorry, 10,000, and you have to pay to this vendor 5,000. You have done a payment of 5,000, and there are invoices available in the system that needs to be closed. So each payment needs to be linked with an invoice. So if this method is applied to oldest, so the system will automatically close any invoice that is so it's like a FIFO method, first in first out. Okay, so anything that is oldest will be settled first. Okay, so out of these 5,000, the first five invoices will be settled, and the other five invoices will remain open. But if you keep it as manual, so you would have to apply each invoice to a payment. So for example, you're making a payment of 5,000 riyals or 5,000 rupees. So you would actually have to go and click on apply entries. I will show you how it will happen, but you would have to click on apply entries, and you would have to map each invoice to its specific amount. Okay. So this is what it means, right? Payment terms code. This is the default payment terms. For example, for each invoice, you have this contract with the customer that for each invoice we're going to pay you after 30 days or 40 days or 30 or 60 or 90 or 120. So this is based on your contract with the vendor. Okay. So here is where you attach the payment terms. Okay, and yeah, this is going to be a default value. Okay, and this is going to be a default value. Okay, and you can change it obviously in an invoice. The system will not block you, but if you have attached the default payment terms, then every time you create an invoice, this is or an order, the system will pick the same. Okay. Then you have your payment method code. Maybe this vendor prefers that you pay him every time with a bank transfer, or you pay him through, for example, check, or you pay him through cash. So these things are pretty much defaults, okay? And it will, the system will not block you if you change, if you do select anything else at the time of purchase order or at the time of purchase invoice. These are just defaults. So these fields don't actually need to be filled. Okay, you can always fill them at the time of creating the purchase documents. Okay, this is pretty much the most important thing in this area. Okay, then you have your okay, I'll just collapse this. Okay, the receiving. Okay, then you have from this vendor in which location you normally receive. Okay, so you will say that every time I order something from this vendor, I'll receive in this location. And this is again, this is a default. The system will not stop you if you receive in any other location until you do hard coding or something like that. Shipment method code, you can have a default shipment method maybe um, to a truck, to whatever it can be. Okay, you can create and you can link it here. Okay, so that is also the most important thing here. Okay, so we have created a vendor. What we'll do now is we'll go and we'll create an item. So we're going back to the department, we're going to the warehouse, we're going to planning and execution, items, and we're going to create a new item. Okay, so again, this is a template. We don't have to attach any template right now. We're just going to cancel this. Again, the number field is not visible, so we just go to customize this page, go to cross tabs, go to customize cross tab, number is removed. Okay. Right, so the number is showing now. So we'll just, so the system is already taking incremental, so we don't have to put any other number. So we say that this is item. Okay. Then blocked, again, this is quite self-explanatory. If this item is blocked, the system will not allow you to do any transaction transfers, purchase, sales, anything. The system will not allow you to do that. Then you have your base unit of measure. So each item should have a base unit of measure. Okay, it can be a box, pieces, it can be a time in the time format. Okay, so days, hours. This is because it can be a service. Okay, you can create a service item as well. Then you have your pallets, you have your pack, whatever. Okay, so we're just going to select pieces for now. Okay, then you have your item category. You can further categorize this item. Okay, this is default database. So in your company scenario, whatever the client is telling you, you will have to create them as item categories. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to select, for example, this is not necessary. I'm just going to give you an example. So we'll select miscellaneous. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Okay. So we're going to collapse this, tabs, tab, have the inventory. Okay. So here you're able to attach the shelf number. Okay. So for example, this item belongs to a certain shelf in your warehouse. So you're going to attach that in the shelf number. This is a text field. This will not affect anything. This will not change anything. This is just a text field for your reference. The inventory is obviously this is a flow field, but it's calculating based on your item ledger entry. Okay, so whatever transactions you do, for example, you are purchasing this item, so this will be updated automatically. Okay. Quantity on purchase orders, whatever is currently on the purchase orders and yet to be received, this will be shown here. Whatever is in production order will be shown here, and what is on your sales order, whatever details you need for the item will be shown in this area. Okay. Then you have your costing method. So the costing method, you can these are, if you have any idea about the cost accounting, then you would immediately pick this up. That the FIFO, the FIFO, and the LIFO. So it's first in, first out, last in, first out. So the costing method, if it's a FIFO, the system will take the cost of the item that was purchased earlier on. So if I purchase an item at $10 and then I purchase the item at $15 and I sell the item, okay, the system will consider the cost for this selling as 10, and then if I sell it, consider it as 15. LIFO, it will consider the last in, first out. So anything that has been purchased on it will take the last cost of the purchase. So for example, if I purchase the same item twice for single quantity each, then the system will say, for example, the second one was 15, the system will pick as 15. Okay, so this is how it works. Then specific means that you will have to specify the cost yourself. Average means that it will take the average of all the costs and it will divide it by the number. Okay, and it will give you the cost. For example, you purchase an item, for example, first time you purchase it by $10 and then you purchase it by $20. So now your total cost is 30. Okay, so at one time it was 10, then it became 20. Now the system will divide this by 2 and will give you the average cost of 15. Okay, so this is the scenario, right? Okay, so then you have your unit cost. This is also calculated automatically, okay, from the system based on your purchases. Okay, then you have your mind you me that I'm giving you all the things that are most important. I'm not going into each field because some fields are not even you're not going to use. Okay, so I'm going to be giving you the most important fields. Then you have your general product posting group, guide product posting group, and inventory posting group. We have already discussed them. Based on these, the system will do the postings. Okay. Then I'm going to collapse this, and I'm going to go to pricing, prices and sales. Okay. So this area you define the unit price of the item. Okay. You say that this is my price of the item. So you can, if you assign a price here, this is going to be like a fixed price. Okay, so you cannot maintain multiple prices for multiple categories. For example, you have a customer category, some group of customers have a certain price, some group of customers have a certain price. You cannot have that. Okay, so this one, if you assign it here, it will take as a one value. Okay, so profit percentage, again, this is a flow field. This will be calculated automatically. Okay. Then sales unit of measure. This one is, for example, you're purchasing an item in boxes and you're selling them and selling it in pieces. Then you can assign it here. So the system will purchase the item uh, in boxes and it will sell it in pieces. Okay. Okay, then we have replenishment. Okay, what is the standard replenishment procedure? For example, you have purchase, production order, or assembly. So there are three types of items in the system, or rather four. You can either or the ways how you produce item or you create an item is that you can either purchase an item, okay, from a vendor, or you can create a purchase order, okay, and the system will create the inventory for that. For example, you have 2 3 items that come together to make one item, and that this is going to be your production order. Production order is for items that not necessarily will go back to the previous state. For example, chemicals or these things. And assembly is a simple, for example, you have a bicycle has different parts, so you assemble all these parts together and it becomes an assembly. The other difference between production order and assembly is that in standard nav, the production cycle is not available, you can say that, okay, because you would have to purchase the advanced license or advanced pack for the production cycle. So usually the companies, what they do is they just create assembly items. So the assembly item is very simple. We'll discuss it right now. Okay. Assembly is, if you can see here, there's a field here called assembly bomb. So it says that this is not an assembly bomb. So if you go to navigate, okay, and you go to assembly, sorry, you go to the, one second, okay, this one, yeah, the bill of material. You go here in the bill of material area, you have your assembly bomb. You open assembly bomb. Here you're saying that this item that we have just created is made up of which items. You say that it is an item, okay, and it takes this item, okay, and the quantity is 1, and it also takes another item, and for example this one, and it takes a value of 2. Okay, so if I click OK, this becomes, yes, this becomes an assembly bomb item. Okay, right. Okay, item tracking. This is used for what you call, if for example you want to maintain the expiry dates or you want to maintain the lot numbers for an item. This setup will help you do that. Okay. So, okay, this is pretty much the most important thing. This is for advanced warehousing, so we're not going to go into advanced warehousing right now. Okay, so we have created an item. Now we'll just go and create a customer. Okay, so we're going to go to our sales module, order processing, and go to our customers. Okay, let me just, if you can see here, we can't find the new button here, so we'll add it. Move up. We have our new button here. So again, same thing. Okay, so the enter. The system takes the incremental number. We'll say that this is the customer. Okay, right. So these fields are exactly the same as you have in the vendor card. Uh, okay, salesperson code, for example, if a certain salesperson is responsible for this customer and he has actually brought this customer, then we will just attach it to this salesperson. That this salesperson is the representative or is the one who will deal with this customer. Okay, so we'll attach it here. Okay, so let's collapse this. Okay, so these all fields are calculated automatically. Total sales. Uh, okay, what at what costs we have sold this the items to this customer, and so on and so forth. Again, the address area, quite simple. I'm not going to go into details. Okay, it's self-explanatory. Okay, so this is the same thing. If, for example, this customer is the customer who is going to receive the items, but there is a separate parent company or parent customer parent account for this customer who will receive the bills. Then we will attach that customer here. So the bill to customer will be a separate customer. Okay. VAT registration number, again same thing. You will attach the VAT registration number, which is given, which is assigned by the government authority to an organization you will create it here. Okay. 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 Again, these three fields most important. You will attach them here. This based on this, the system will do the posting. Then you have your currency code. If this is a foreign customer, then you will attach the currency here. Or if this customer deals with a separate currency, even if he is a local customer but he deals with a separate currency, you will attach him here. Okay. Customer price group. This will be discussed in a later phase about the customer price, the pricing, the price groups, and all these things. Okay, we can collapse that. The payments. Okay, payment terms. What are the payment terms you have decided with this customer? Okay, again these are the same things. Application method, that if the invoices are there in the system for this customer and he has done the payment, then once you record the payment, how the system should treat it. Is it going to be a manual and you would have to apply them, or the apply to oldest means that whatever uh, is previous, it will apply to that. Okay. So prepayment percentage means that for each invoice, the customer should have to pay. So, for example, the invoice is of 100,000, or the order is for 100,000 reals. This is the customer is obliged to pay 10% as a prepayment in order to start the work. So this is where you assign the prepayments percentage. Again, this is a default. You can always change this at the time of orders or at the time of creating the rest of the things. Okay, so here you're assigning just if this is a company or a person, doesn't make any difference. Then you have your payment terms code. What are your payment terms according to your contract with the customer? If he's going to pay you after 30 days, after 90 days, 60 days, or 120 days, whatever it is. Okay. So, okay. Shipping again, from which location you usually ship to this customer. Maybe you have this customer is based in your uh, western region. Okay, so you will select a warehouse for western region, and this customer will receive all the inventory from this region. Okay, so you can assign a default location code. Okay, so reserve in some scenario, once you place a customer places an order and you create a sales order for that customer, you can reserve the quantity and the system will show that quantity as reserved for a specific customer. And this enables you to keep track of your inventory. If you need, for example, this customer orders 10 quantity of a certain product that you offer. For example, the product that we created, so it's XYZ product, and this customer has ordered for 10 quantity. Currently you have 20 in your stock, but he has ordered for 10 quantity and you have already made a reserve. So if another customer comes, he requests for 20 quantity of the same item, the system will show you that 10 is reserved. Okay, so you cannot use that 10. You have 10 available out of that 20. Okay, and you need to order for the 10 quantity in order to compensate for that order. Okay, so this is the reserve quantity field. Okay, Rest, I don't think so anything is more important. Okay, right. So now we're just going to quickly go through a small purchase cycle. Okay, going to go to departments, going to go to purchasing, order processing. Okay, we're going to purchase quotations. Okay, create new. Okay, so we select the vendor that we created. It was XYZ vendor. Okay, so let me just confirm. I did, yes, I did attach. Okay, so here you are attaching the vendor. Okay, at which date you are creating the document. Okay, what is the due date? What is the order date? At which date you will create the order. So this is all taken as one date because this is the first time you're creating the document. Okay, so requested receipt date. What date have you requested to the vendor to provide this quotation? Okay, or sorry, this what you call this order. Okay, then you have your vendor order number. This will be filled in later on. Okay, so we're just going to go to the type. We're going to go to item. Okay, we're going to select the item that we created. CDF or training item. Yes, okay. Training item. Yeah, thank you. Right, so created. Okay, you see that we have an error here. I think I didn't attach the posting rules. Going to edit, go to okay, so we'll select this is going to be for example retail. Okay, 525. I'm going to posting group as okay, so now it's fixed, which was fixed. Refresh. Okay. Now, at which location you need to receive it? Okay, so you say blue. How much quantity? For which quantity you have received this quotation? You say 10. And what is the direct unit cost? How much the vendor is quoting you? Maybe he's quoting you each unit is going to be for 5 reals. Okay, so the total amount becomes 50. Okay, so what you're going to do is at this point you can either have an approval cycle. It will go through the approval cycle and it will be sent to the concerned department. At this point you will just release this. Okay, so it will go to release, which means that this has been released for internal processing. Okay. Now, at this point, you need to make an order of this quotation. For example, this quotation has been approved, and you need to convert this to an order. So you will just go to your home tab. You will go to the process area. You will create an order. Make order. Click yes. Okay. So the order, the code number 1001 has been converted into order number this. So click OK, and now you will, if you can see that your purchase quotation has vanished from here. So it has actually been converted into the purchase order, and this document has been archived. So we go again to the order processing. You go to your purchase orders. Okay, and we will search it with the vendor number. So, or one second, we'll search it by vendor name. It's XYZ. Yeah, this one. Okay. So we will open the order. Okay, at this point of time we need to receive the quantity of this order. Okay, for example, the vendor is ready to deliver the goods and we are ready to receive them in our inventory. So now this order has been created at this point, so you will just release this. Released means that it has been sent over to the what you call the vendor. This is the vendor has done his procedure. and now he is ready to deliver the goods to us. Okay, so at this point you realize that the customer is saying that the vendor is saying that you have ordered 10 quantity, but I will can only deliver 5 quantity here. Okay, so what you will do is you will scroll over to quantity to receive. You will say 5. Okay, so now you have actually changed the value from 10 to 5. Now there should remain a 5 quantity that is yet to be received. So what we'll do is we will just go on and put the vendor invoice number. We'll say that this is 1001. Okay, and we will click post. So at this point we are having three options that we can choose from. We can either only receive, we can either only invoice, we can do both at the same time. So what is the use of this? In some scenarios, in some companies, there are different departments for different activities. Okay, one department is only responsible for receiving, and the finance department is the one who does the invoicing. So in this scenario, we will only give access to the department which is responsible for receiving to this button, and the finance will go on and create the invoice. Or in some scenarios, the same department that is receiving is the department who creates the invoice. It does not process the invoice, it just creates an invoice for the finance department to see. So at this point, we will just receive an invoice. Okay, okay. So it is posting some transactions. Okay. Okay. Now, if you go and scroll over to this area, you can see that quantity received is 5 and quantity invoiced is 5. Okay, and quantity to receive is still 5. Why? Because out of the 10 quantity we should now also receive another 5 quantity, so this order will remain open. Okay, so what we'll do is, again, at this point we will just keep this open for now. I'll just keep this open for now and we can close this. Okay, now I need to see what are the transactions that are posted, what are the Okay, so again we're going to continue with our session. Okay, so now up till now what we have done is we have created a vendor, we have created a customer, we have created an item. Against that item, we have created a purchase order with the same vendor, and we have received a certain quantity for this item. Okay, so we're going to go to we're going to just take this reference number. One second. We will take this reference number and we're going to check something. Oh, sorry, going to purchasing, auto processing. We're going to purchase invoices. Okay, so if you can see here, we have this. Okay, one second. I think this is all right. Okay, so the invoice for that has already been posted. Okay, so you don't see that in the purchase invoices area. You should find them in the posted documents. You'll find the purchase invoices. Okay, we'll say posted purchase invoices. Okay, this one you can see here. This has been posted for a quantity of for a price of 25. Now we need to register a payment for this invoice. So what we're going to do is we need to go over to journals. We'll go to payment journals. We will select any of the journal. Okay, and here we're going to give the posting date. By default, system picks today's date. Then the document type is going to be payment. So what is the difference? Let me just give you a breakdown. Payment, anything that is considered as a payment. For example, you are paying to a vendor or a customer is paying to you, is tagged as a payment. An invoice is if you are not going through the proper invoicing cycle and you just need to invoice directly from the journals against a GL account that you have created in your chart of accounts, you can do that as well. A credit memo, by the same essence, you can reverse an invoice created from the journal, and you can create a return for that. Financial charge memo is if you need to assign some freight cost or some custom duty to an existing invoice, that you can create it from here. Reminder and refund are not usually used, and frankly I don't have any idea about this. Okay, right. So what you're going, this is the document number. You select vendor, which vendor you are creating this document for. So let's say XYZ. Now, you know that we have already created an invoice for this vendor against which we have to pay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to apply entries, and we find the invoice already created here. Okay, and we'll just confirm, okay, that the amount is okay. It's going to navigate. Okay, we're going to go to set applies to ID. In the actions area, we have set applies to ID. So what this is doing is this line, okay, it is for the or this invoice, it is linking to the payment entry. Okay, if you can see here, this number, this applies to ID number, is similar to your document number. So the payment journal number. So what it's doing is it's linking this payment journal entry to this invoice. So for each, for example, you have n number of, and you have 10 number of 10 invoices, and you are creating a payment entry for 5 of them. So you will select 5 of them, and you will click set applies to ID, so it will give them the same number. This way you are closing this invoice. Okay, so you click OK. All right, so here is your amount, okay, that you have to pay, and now you're going to pay this through your bank account. Okay, bear this in mind that anything that has to do anything with money, okay, for example, be it cash, be it petty cash, be it banks, be it checks, you have to create them in the bank module. So you will just create as a cash in bank module. So we're just going to do it right now. We're going to go and create cash. Okay, we will say that now go to posting and advanced. We'll say new. This is the posting group. I'm creating a posting group here. So this is standard, cash, and that's all. Now, if I do any transaction against this bank account, it will be posted in this. Okay. Okay, so it's going to be posted in the cash posting group, which is linked to this account 2910, which is our cash account. Click OK. Select. We are paying from our cash account, and that's about it. So what you're going to do is you will just post this invoice, this payment journal. Post. Yes. Okay, the journal lines have been successfully posted. Okay, now let me just go back, okay, to my apartments, order processing, my purchase orders. Okay, this is the order. Now there is 5 quantities still remaining to be received. Okay, at this point, yeah, if you can see here, the 5 quantity is yet to be received, quantity to receive. So what you're going to do is, again, you're going to change the invoice number, okay, because this is the second invoice which is given for this receiving, okay, and you're just going to post this, and again receive an invoice. Okay, and that's about it. So now this order is taken away from the list. So now this order is completely closed. Again, we're going to go back to our journals in order to pay for this invoice. But this time what I'm going to do is I'm not going to assign it to an invoice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the vendor XYZ, and I'm going to go to apply entries. Okay, so this invoice is already there. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to assign the payment to this invoice. Okay, so it will remain. I'll just copy this amount, copy, and I will say that I am. So let me add the debit and credit. Okay, so this is my. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding the debit and credit columns. Seems that is there, but why it's not showing here? One second. Okay, it seems that it's there, but I just need to rearrange it. Okay, so debit, got, and credit, no, got. Right, so I just need to open it again. Right, so here you can see that my okay, there's something odd here. Okay, let's skip it for now. Okay, right, so we're just going to so if you're paying for this vendor, you are going to debit this vendor by 31.25. Okay, and now, okay, so you need to have this idea also that you can create the entries in one line and two lines. Okay, so this is dependent on the client. If the client says I usually do the entries in one line, so they will just give a balance account, and the system will credit the balance account. So here you have added the debit amount, and if you add a balance account, the system will automatically credit that account. But now we're just going to practice this. So we're going to copy it here, and we'll select cash, this one, and we're going to, okay, just going to move and put the minus. Minus means credit, 31.25, and that's about it. So let me just confirm the amount. Um, 31.25. Yeah, okay, right. So it checks out. I'm just going to post. Okay, yes. Okay, talking on server. Okay. Okay, so it turns out that this automatically changed. One second. Yeah, now it's okay. And done. Now let's go back to the vendor and check what happened with the vendor. Vendors. Okay, so we're going to search for him. This one. Okay, so I need to see the statement for this vendor. So what I'll do is I'll just select Control F7. Okay, or I can go to ledger entries. Okay, it will open the same page. Now, if you can see here that I have this invoice and this payment. So there's a check mark which says open. Okay, so these two have been closed. They are not open. So this payment has been assigned to this invoice. But it turns out there are two documents that are open. One payment is open and one invoice is open. Now I need to manually assign them. What I'll do is I'll go to my invoice. I'll say apply entries. Okay, and I see a payment entry already available. So I'll just do the same. Go to actions, set applies to ID, and okay. If I move on to this area, I will see that let me just refresh. Second. think I skipped a part. Let me Yeah, I skipped something. One second. We'll say apply entries, ID, and yeah, post application. Sorry, I skipped this post application. And okay, so the application is successfully posted. Now, if I move over to this area, I will see that it is not open anymore. So these two invoices are now closed and they have been received. The payment has been received. So this is pretty much the procedure for the purchase cycle. I know I was quite skippy today, so but apologies for that. If you have any clarification, any questions, you can just go ahead and ask me.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I want to ask if I mistakenly applies the wrong entry here. So how to reverse that?
You can open 7, okay, and unapply entries. You see there?
Yeah.
So if you unapply the entry, okay, so you say, for example, this one, you say unapply, yes, okay, entries have been unapplied. Now if I open the statement again, I will see these two open again. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
make sense?
And what is the difference between the general and the purchase order? Hello.
Yeah, the journal. Okay, purchase order is a document that is created for sending it over to the vendor. Okay, so it is a proper request for purchase. Okay, and you are telling the customer that these are the things I need to purchase from you, and these are the quantities, and these are the prices on which I need to purchase. The journal is simply to register, any transactions that do not involve these documents. For example, if you are using the purchase journal, this will only affect the GL account. It will not affect anything in the inventory purchase account. This is usually used for any services that you purchase. Some companies they say we don't want to create our services as an item, so they just create GL accounts. For example, cleaning service or whatever service you can name it, okay, or taxi service, whatever. They just create GL accounts and they create manual invoices on these accounts. Okay, so for that purpose, they use the purchase journal. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
anything else?
No, thank you.
Hassan, from my side, I have some questions.
Yeah, sure.
Like, we have a costing method in item card. Whether it is depend on the business, or we can suggest the like users, like you can use this costing.
Okay, so this usually happens with the policy of the company. Okay, mostly I think most
Okay.
all of the projects that I've encountered, we have already used the average costing method, but this is not necessary. Okay, usually the clients say that we need to have the
Okay.
FIFO or the LIFO method, and this is the option is there. They can use it. So
Okay.
it's not upon us. It's upon the client who decides that what they need to do.
Okay. Okay. And one more doubt is like we have journals, like general journal, payment journal, some other journals are there. Is there any field like okay, this entry is created from general journal, like that I can identify, or
Yes,
this is created from payment journal? Any
this
identification
yeah, this identification
like
can be done in multiple ways. This can be done. So if you can see here, let me just open this. Okay, so if you can see here that these are the batches, okay, these are called the batches. So
okay,
each
okay,
individual batch can be designed
okay,
in a separate way. For example, you can say you will have your any payments that are happening in cash, you will have a separate batch. Any payments happening with bank transfer, you will have a separate batch. Or you can have it like you can have it for example, you have two accountants working in your company. So you will create
okay,
batches by their name. So what you will do is you will just go to your journal ledger entries. Okay, you can have
okay.
the source document also. Okay, so one second, let me just find purchase. One second, let me just one second. Here it usually shows you, I think we need to add that field, but here it shows you that, no, this is posting your phone something. Usually it's through the document number, but I think there is an option to add the badge also. Mm, okay. Mhm. So I think we need to add that as a batch. But here in the journal ledger entries, you can have that identification.
That,
What was the source batch for this?
okay.
So it becomes evident
Same
here.
a batch name template. Okay.
1 second, I will confirm this here also. The GL registers. So, okay, you can see here in the GL registers, this tag, this GNL,
Source code.
yeah,
Okay.
GNL tag, this GNL tag tells you that which was the source area that generated this. So the sales journal created this document. So in the same way, you have your purchase journal, you have your payment, so it will be, I
Okay.
believe it's
General journal. Perfect. Okay.
okay. So this is your journal batch and your source code.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Thank you.
this is in the journal GL registers.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think this is useful for you when you're trying to fetch the data and you're trying to understand that where I can get this data from.
Yeah.
Hello.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hello.
yeah,
Yeah, one
yes,
more question.
yeah.
So can we add that general batch in general ledger entries
Why
also?
not? Sure. Selva is the most
Yeah.
suitable person to answer that. Can we, Selva?
Yes. From the back end.
Yeah. We can add.
We can just
Okay.
take the
Okay.
information from the GL registers
If
table.
we,
We can put it there. No issues.
yeah.
And Selva can show you in the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Okay. Okay. Thanks.